Hello, Internet! Almost forgot what button to push there. I was like, oh shit, wait, how do I go to my camera? Welcome to the Free-to-Play Cast, episode 238, brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, aka magicman. We're going to talk about loot boxes. Screw them. We're going to try and keep the language to a minimum, because we do like monetizing videos here. So we don't want that to be thrown out there. To join me in the chat about some loot boxes, we have Miss Quinlan Bowers. How are you, Q?
I'm good. Just kind of hanging out today, apparently.
I see the cat food, but no cat.
Yeah, the cat has decided recently that his favorite place to hang out is a big box filled with blankets and pillows and a cloak and other random stuff in the closet in the bedroom in the dark.
Well, that seems comfortable. That seems comfy.
Yeah. That's his spot. I don't know.
Also on the line, Mr. I Love Loot Boxes, Troy Blackburn, aka Noob Fridge.
I was gonna say, I don't know what you're talking about, man. Loot boxes are the greatest thing ever.
Oh boy. Yeah, you have an unpopular opinion. Let's just see how that one breaks down as we get ready and go through the news. All right, so we in the free-to-play game space, we have dealt with loot boxes forever. I mean, they've been around for years and years and years in the free-to-play space, in some form or another, whether they were selling you the boxes, giving you the boxes, but selling you keys, however they want to do it. They've been doing this for years, but why does it seem like every site I've been on in the last 2 weeks or so has a loot box story? Well, it's becoming pretty prevalent in buy-to-play games now, too. And we saw this initially right with Overwatch. By all means, not the first buy-to-play game to include loot boxes, but arguably the highest profile example in recent time.
Come on, Mike. Blizzard is the first company to do everything.
They're first for everything. But speaking of Activision, we've also seen it now in Destiny with the bright engrams that you can purchase with cash that have a random smattering of cosmetic-styled items in it. We're seeing a lot with the new Lord of the Rings game, Shadow of War, a sequel to a popular original game, doing some really bizarre things. NBA, what is it? NBA 2K18, and that's basically a slot machine. That game, it's a basketball game that they've managed to put in a cash shop currency. It's not quite loot boxy, but along the same lines here. So it seems like in the last 2 or 3 weeks, with some really, really high profile games now, encouraging a $60 fee and a cash shop and a loot box thing, that every site I've visited lately had a story on loot boxes. So I wanted to talk about them because we've dealt with them for a really long time, right? I mean, Neverwinter essentially launched with the damn things. You can earn the boxes, you can earn the keys. The keys are much more rare than the boxes themselves. And we're going to talk about practices because I actually think that practice is worse than just selling straight up the loot box. But we'll talk about that in a second. I want to get everybody's and we'll talk about Lord of the Rings Online and its snafu recently with some loot boxes. Because they generally can't just keep hands out of pockets. I mean, it's very encouraged without encouraging. Like, they say all the right things, Q. Well, they're optional. Well, you can get these things in the game, but they're used in a very manipulative way to highly encourage the purchase of them. So we'll start with you, Q. Let's just get your sense on loot boxes and the whole concept in general, and then we'll break it down to specific practices that we may or may not like, may be in favor of, may not be in favor of. Go ahead, Q.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because when they relaunched the Secret World Legends, that was one of the things I talked to them about when I did that interview. The whole loot box, because they're like, oh well, there's loot boxes. There's like 6 loot boxes in every dungeon, and you get keys. You do get like, I think if you're free to play, you get 12 keys a day, so you can run 2 dungeons a day and get the stuff out of your loot box. If you're you know, if you're subbed, then you get 18, so you can do that. But then there are other keys. You know, there's layer keys, which are a different set of keys, and you need to be subbed for these keys, and there's scenario keys. And then, you know, the really infamous one, because running around the game, every time you kill something, there's a really, really high chance you're going to get the caches. And you just end up with all these caches just sitting in your bag. If you're not subbed, you either have to spend marks of favor or actual cash, whichever one you have the most of. And getting marks of favor is harder if you're not subbed than it is if you are. So you're basically, you pretty much have to be subbed or just willing to spend money every time you want a key in order to open these caches. And that's where they've got, like right now, the Halloween caches in there. So if you want any of the Halloween goodies, then you need to be subbed, or you need to be buying a key some way in order to get these things. And again, it's not guaranteed you're going to get the Halloween stuff out of it. Like, we've been through 2 caches now, 2 or 3, 2, I think. And out of the 2, I've just actually gone ahead, because some people, you know, they get enough of them, they throw them on the outfits and the pets and the mounts and all that stuff. They throw them on the auction house. And I've actually bought like the cash stuff off the auction house rather than actually getting it out of the caches.
You bypassed it entirely.
Well, in some cases, I never got the items. They actually never dropped. Like, I get a key every day because I'm subbed. So I get a key every day and I open it, and I get the worthwhile stuff, like the boosts and stuff to help you level up your weapons and stuff like that. I can't think of the name of the currency, but there's another currency that you only get out of caches, and you can use them in a Garth to buy. Yeah, so you get that stuff every time, although that amount changes. Like, one day you'll get 8 of that currency, the next day you'll get 24, you know, and you need to have like at least 100. If you want the really good things, you need 400. You know, so you have to stay subbed to get that. Like,
and this just gives me a headache trying to figure out what you're saying.
What's worse, the loot boxes or all the currencies?
Yeah, and you know what? That aside, Rift
like
has totally turned me off in that regard, by the way. It's totally tangent thought.
Oh, yeah.
With the
Everybody's
currencies.
mad at Rift and currencies all the time. But, I mean, it's just like I said, it's all RNG. You will, without a doubt, like if you go in and play for, 3 to 5 hours in a day or something like that, like say you take a Saturday, you're going to come out with like 30 of those caches, but you can only open 1 unless you go spend more money to get a key. Ugh. And that's if you're subbed. If you're not subbed, you're spending the money to get the key anyway, or you're just waiting for people to dump the stuff on the auction house. So,
Troy, let's go to you, and I think it's funny here because one of the games you love the most had arguably the worst RNG loot box system in creation for the longest time before enough people were pissed off saying, just let me buy the damn hero I want to buy, in Marvel Heroes' original foray into, what was it? The heroes were in the boxes, but they were random. And so you're spending money and may not even get the hero you're buying. And then finally, they saw the light, right, and converted it to, all right, if you want to buy this hero, you can go and just buy this particular hero. But, yeah, you being a fan of that game, I'm interested to see what your take on the whole loot box fiasco is.
Oh, man. I hate to be cynical, but this is something that I've been, I've had a lot of thoughts internally over the past few days, and not to get all super serious on everybody, but loot boxes are becoming a problem. Where before maybe they were something that was an annoyance, now you've got like Battlefront 2 coming out with like legitimate pay to win. It's the most hardcore pay to win I've seen in a game in quite some time, especially for a battle-play game. So here's the problem. Here's what I see looking around. You go to the internet, right? You go to sites like MMOBomb and other places, and it seems like the majority of people are against this. Nobody likes these lock boxes. Everybody hates them.
Yep.
But
there's a reason they're getting worse.
The companies keep making them, they keep selling them, and they keep making more and more money off of them. I think we lose perspective a little bit being on the internet that we are obviously not the huge majority we think we are. There's just no way we are, because people are buying these things hand over fist, spending just God knows how much money. And you go to the Shadow of War Facebook page right now and look through some of their posts, and you'll see people complain about all the lockboxes. You will see on their Facebook page just as many people making counter arguments like, what does it matter? Like, if I want to spend money on these lockboxes, it's my money. I'll do whatever I want to with it. If it doesn't interfere with the game, what does it matter? Although, come to find out, it kind of does interfere with the game just a little bit. It doesn't stop you wholesale, but it will slow you way down towards the end to see the real ending of the game. So I think that's the saddest part, is we are not the majority we think we are rallying against these lockboxes. We are fighting an uphill battle, and I think that's pretty obvious, judging by what's been coming out lately.
Either that, or we are the majority. We're just lying on the internet.
We hate them, but we buy them anyway.
Yeah,
well,
we bitch about them, but then pull out the wallet.
I bitch about it, but I'm subbed. So, I mean, I'm just as guilty. And like I said, I went and told
to be
them,
fair,
like,
there are other perks in the Secret World Legends that you get for that sub. It's not exclusively, but
that
is the biggie. That is the biggie.
The main reason I'm subbed, well, two main reasons. You get a 20% bonus on your marks of favor and your anima shards, but the big reason is because if I don't sub, then I have to spend anima shards to port from one place to another in the map. And with all the other stuff you have to spend those anima shards on in the game, the museum, leveling up your items and everything else, no.
Oh, God. Q is subbed for fast travel. Oh, God. Could you imagine if Guild Wars 2 did that? Oh, my God.
Oh, Lord. Oh. Especially the core game, because it's built around that.
Yep.
Jeez.
Yep. Oh,
boy. Some of those areas you want to be able to fast travel, because Egypt, like, you're just running back and forth all the time. There's no quest here.
By the way, you can now in Guild Wars 2 Cash Shop pay to unlock waypoints in certain sections at a time for a certain amount of gems. You can unlock all the waypoints that you haven't gotten to in certain sections. So maybe they kind of are a little bit.
At some point, they're just going to make a game that you could pay to play itself. At some point, you just pay to have it auto-level you, increase your experience, and go kill monsters while you're at work.
I've done like first looks and stuff for Korean games that absolutely play themselves.
Actually, I've had some phone games that play themselves. Like I've sat there, like, you just let them go. They do it.
Yeah, like, especially the ones where you just lose control. You're like, why am I even here right now?
Yep. By the way, some people might be wondering why we're not talking about the World of Warplanes 2.0 overhaul. We'll be talking about that next week. We held off because Jason is actually at Wargaming, chatting with the team about that. So we'll be talking about that 2.0 overhaul next week for you World of Warplanes fans saying, why wasn't this talked about? It was big news this week. Yes, it was. We'll be covering that next week. So here's my thing on the loot boxes. Troy, I'm kind of like you. I used to not care. You want to put cosmetic things in there, and if you want to spend a couple of bucks and roll the dice to kind of get a cosmetic thing, fine. I was even fine when there was no way to get those cosmetics besides those loot boxes. You still realized you were taking a chance at maybe getting it. I appreciated games that said you could buy these, or we'll individually put a lot of these things here and you could buy them specifically. So, okay, fine. That gave me another option. If I didn't want to play the roll of the dice game, I could just go and buy that speeder that I wanted, that mount that I wanted. Great. Fantastic. But then, I mean, we saw a lot over the last year or so. Remember the CSGO gambling sites? And we've seen a lot of this type of mentality leaning more and more towards there's going to have to be legislation at some point There's going to have to be and we're already seeing it in the East, right? I mean, China, in particular, has already put some laws in place regarding these types of practices. Now,
yeah, they at least have to tell you the odds.
Yes, to advertise the odds for certain things like that. And that was one of my biggest gripes for the longest time, was just show me the odds. There have been practices that have evolved since then that have just totally made me look at loot boxes as being absolutely deplorable. Deplorable. And I know I talked a lot about Destiny 2 last week, but that practice with their silver, buying silver to get bright engrams, it's downright manipulative, in my opinion. And there's these systems are starting to capitalize in a way that they don't have to say that's what they're doing on addictive personalities and people that maybe don't have the self-control or things like that. Just look at Neverwinter. I hated the way Neverwinter implemented theirs, and we've seen it since. Q, you're talking about Secret World Legends now does almost the same thing, where you get all those chests all the frickin' time, Troy. You play the game and they're just dropping in your inventory left and right, but you got to go buy the key. Now think about that. That may not be a big difference in your head to go buy the chest and take a shot, or go buy the key to open a chest and take the shot. But think about that from a slightly back-end standpoint. If I just want Troy to buy the loot box, I got to get him to go to the store, and I got to get him to buy the loot box. But if I could put something in his inventory, and if he doesn't want to, he's just going to say, I don't want to. I'm not going to buy anything. But it's a bit of a different dilemma if I put something right in your inventory to remind you, you have goodies here, Troy. If only you would give us 99 cents. If only you would give us $1.99. Who knows what's in these boxes? You already have them. You didn't come to our shop and buy them. You already have them. All you have to do is open them. Granted, I'll give Secret World Legends a little bit of a different pass there because they are doing something different with that. It's boss drops, and you can open a certain amount of time. I kind of view that almost as what.
Well, no, they're just random mob drops.
Well, yeah, but there's a certain drop boxes like that too in Secret World.
Right.
But what they do is you can sell them.
You can at least sell them and get a little bit of like
sell them. You can either get marks of favor or you can get anima shards from them. You can sell it. You can either sell them on the auction house or to a vendor. So like I usually get somewhere between 20 and 30 a day when I play. I keep like 2 or 3 and I sell the rest.
But to the addictive personality, saying, that is a huge difference.
Yeah, and Neverwinter, if you try to dump those out of your inventory, if they make you feel like you're like getting rid of something that's super valuable,
right?
Like don't just throw away our commercial we put in your inventory for our cash shop,
right?
Like, are you sure you want to delete these?
Yeah.
Come on, one more time. Confirm that you really want to delete these. There might be something really good in there.
It's amazing and just think about that. If you have an addictive personality, God forbid, a gambling addiction in particular. But this plays on all addictive tendencies. But a gambling addiction in particular, it's almost like, well, I'm not gambling. I'm not going to buy it. They gave me the chest, Troy. I'm just paying to unlock it. I'm just paying to unlock it. And look at the way Destiny does it, which I find almost worse. And I love Destiny 2. I love it. I'm having a blast with it. I have one of all 3 classes that are 295 or 293 and higher. My hunter's almost at 305. Like, I'm obviously enjoying the hell out of the game. But it's got its own little cash shop, right? You got to go buy silver to buy bright engrams, which they're only going to contain cosmetic stuff. They have mods in there, but yeah, you can farm up mods in the game. Okay, fine. It's not egregious as far as the things that are in these bright engrams. But again, it capitalizes on that addictive personality. Why? Troy, after you hit level 20, every time you level, guess what you're given for free? A bright engram. Great. I'm getting some of that cosmetic stuff that Destiny 2 is selling for free. Awesome. Good for me. Where do you have to go to open that? You have to take it to the cash shop lady and have her open it in the interface where they're trying to sell you the silver to buy more of these things. You can't just oh, okay, great. Every time I level, I get one I open up. It's almost like if you've got that addictive personality, you don't want to level up after 20 because they're forcing you to use it. It's some shady practices, and I know a lot of people may think I'm totally overreacting. I am fortunate in that I don't have an addictive personality when it comes to that. I smoke cigarettes. It's the biggest vice I have. Sure, yes, I'm addicted to smoking cigarettes. Absolutely. But I don't have that addictive tendency to latch on to certain things and maybe spend more than I am able to or stuff like that. If you, unfortunately, have those, some of these things are downright dangerous, Troy.
Yeah, I mean, you can get in there and lose control of what's going on around you before you even realize what happened. It's like, ooh, the next loot box might have it. Ooh, the next loot box might have it. And there are absolutely, yes, there are absolutely people who get preyed upon like that by these developers. They'll spend $30, $40 before they even realize what the fuck just happened. And it's unfortunate, but it's the way that the market's going because we, all gamers, we can't stop spending money on it as a collective. If we would just stop spending money on it and buying these things, all this would come to a screeching halt. The problem is we put billions of dollars into the gaming industry through these lock boxes. We, us, not the developers, they're not holding a gun to your head. Yes, there are predatory practices in place that take advantage of certain folks. But not every person who spends money on these things are addictive personalities, are getting preyed upon. There are plenty of folks out there who are just choosing to spend their money this way. I mean, who am I to tell you how to spend your money? Yeah. Except for the fact that I can't go buy, like, if there's one thing in this game I want, I can't just go buy it. I've got to spend, or I don't got to do shit. If I wanted it that bad, I would need to spend hundreds of dollars on the chance of maybe trying to get it. And that's infuriating to me. And I've straight up just boycotted games recently. I loved Shadow of Mordor. I hyped that game from the moment it was announced at E3 for over a year. I was so in love with that game, and I played it, and it was everything I hoped it would. I have not touched Shadow of War. I will not touch Shadow of War. Here. I'm taking a stand where I can. My $60 or more nowadays because let's be honest, games are no longer $60. $60 is the cost to get into the shell frame version of the game, the silver and the gold editions and the ultimate editions and all the DLC packs and season passes. That's where the whole game is actually there. The whole game actually costs hundreds of dollars, and that's one of the great counter arguments that people like to use for these lock boxes. Oh, well, games have only ever been $60. They've been $60 for so long. Games aren't $60 fucking dollars anymore.
Yeah, right.
The shell-based version to get you started in a game, yes, you can get in for $60. But look at all this other stuff you're actually missing. Shadow of War, for example, there are tribes of orcs not included in the $60 version of the game. Elements from the game literally ripped out to put in upsell versions, and then they still do loot boxes on top of that. So lose the argument that games are still $60 because they're not, and they haven't been for a while. It's at least $100 or more for most games if you want the full version of the game, and then all these loot boxes on top of it. It's infuriating as a person. Like, my money is never enough. No matter how much money I give a company, it's never seems to be enough.
Yeah, and
it's a company, so that's by definition true always. But what was it? Didn't BioWare do something similar with either Mass Effect or somebody did something where they dropped off like an entire race and all their quests, and you could only get them if you bought.
I'm not aware of a bio one. I remember the Elder Scrolls Online did that. What was it, Troy? It was the Imperial, wasn't it? That was
you had to buy a special edition to get the Imperial,
get the collector's edition for it. Yeah. We just saw that recently with Lord of the Rings Online's Mordor expansion, where the High Elves are trapped behind a certain version of the expansion, and it's not in the cheapest expansion. So it's a whole race in Lord of the Rings Online behind. Q, I want to get your take on a different aspect of this in a second. But Troy, there was something I wanted to say. Oh, the point you were making. Love him or hate him. That's going to be up to you guys and gals watching on YouTube. Love him or hate him, Jim Sterling did a fantastic...
Thank God for Jim Sterling.
He would appreciate that you said that. Love him or hate him, that's up to you. He did an episode I think it was just last week, actually, or maybe it was this Monday's episode of the Jimquisition that is on the $60 myth. So if you are a buy-to-play gamer... And you've heard the argument of, you know, games have been 60. Go watch that video. It details exactly what Troy, the point you were just making, Troy, in a very Jim Sterling way. Just
Jim Sterling can explain anything better than I ever could. So yes, check that out.
One of the aspects we haven't even talked about, Q, and I want to get your take on this, is that we are talking about video games here. And like it or not, as adults who are gamers, there is still a very high, and probably always will be, a very high percentage of gamers who are not above the legal gambling age in their own given country. And as much as people they want to say this isn't gambling, this isn't gambling, this isn't gambling, one, you're wrong. You're wrong, and maybe you don't like me for saying that, but you're wrong. Yes, they are cosmetic things. Yes, they aren't required. Yes, they could just be fun items. The problem is, in most of these games, those items are also sold individually and have a cash value attached to them, where you could spend, you know, $10 and get 5 lockboxes, and they could contain any one of these 100 items that are $1.99 a piece. Well, then you have a cash value put there. I am giving Q $10 with the hopes of possibly, hopefully, getting that skin or that mount or whatever that the cash shop sells for $20 or $25 or $10. There is a cash equivalency going on here. That is gambling, like it or not. Just because Troy isn't going to win money does not mean that it's not gambling. And that's an entire aspect of this that we haven't even talked about yet, Q, that I think is a huge consideration as well.
Well, it's so as far as the gambling thing goes, I hate gambling. I think I said this before. I grew up in and around Las Vegas, and I saw what it did to people. At one point, my parents ran a swap meet where people we were across the river from Laughlin, Nevada, and the guy that it's named after, Don Laughlin, he owned he owned a lot of the casinos. He owned a car dealership and all this stuff, and people would come from all over the place. They'd be moving out there. They'd be on vacation, camping, whatever. And they would, you know, decide to go into the casinos because casinos are fun and let's gamble, and they would lose everything. And they'd sell the car to the Laughlin car dealership. They'd come across the river to us, and I would buy thousands because my parents put me to work outside running one of the lots. I would buy thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of stuff for a couple $100, enough money to get them a bus ticket back to wherever they came from. So I see, growing up, I saw what gambling did to people, and I just don't think it's really good. And yeah, there's a legal age, and the thing about it is excluding that kind of gambling where you walk into a casino and everything is rigged. There's a lot of stuff that's very similar here. Like, you know, you go in and the sounds play just right. There's very specific colors. The carpeting is designed in a very specific way. Like, all of this stuff is designed to make you want to spend money. It's all very psychological.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Overwatch to pump oxygen into the room while I'm playing right? To give me that euphoria.
So there's all of that. But even barring that, let's take that kind of gambling out. Let's take the lottery, you know, going and spending a couple of bucks so you might win, you know, 100 million out. And let's just use giveaway type things that, like, say they do at car dealerships or at stores and stuff like that. They always have an age limit. And there's always, you need to be 18 or older.
More importantly, legally, they also have a way to enter for free.
Right, they have those too.
At least in the U.S. I'm sorry, I mean to be referencing in the U.S. You have to be able to enter those sweepstakes for free. Those ones where they say, buy this and we'll give you 10 entries into this. There's always small print that you're able to enter those things for free.
Yeah, you could, even if it's like cereal, like when they do it with cereal boxes, yep. You don't have to buy it. You can just send a self-addressed stamped envelope with a 3x5 card with your information in it to enter, kind of deal. Like, yeah, there's always a way to enter for free, but there's, I mean, unless it's like a little church thing or something that they're doing, you know, where the prize is like some, you know, something like that. But anything, you know, that has any real monetary value, there's an age limit.
Yep.
So with that in consideration, with how much money is involved here and how many kids, I mean, how many kids have we seen now just accidentally spend the money on their parents' credit cards and gaming by this point?
And that's what I was going to say. The counter argument to that is, well, you also have to be a certain age limit to obtain a credit card, things like that. Ladies and gents, debit cards now are de facto credit cards, at least, you know, in most of the world, particularly here in the United States. And the age limits on obtaining a bank account with a debit card that has a Visa logo, and granted, you may be limited by the funds that are there. I mean, yeah, fine, I hear the whole counter argument, but there are a number of times where my teenage son, whom I trust, I've just handed the card to because he wanted to buy something on Steam, gave me the cash. He could very easily have saved that data. He could very easily have put $100 on there, but he only gave me $50 cash and bought something else. It's just the real world is what we're looking at here. And some of these practices, they just capitalize on the young, the addictive personality, the people that will just keep throwing money. And I find it disgusting in the free-to-play world. I find it even more egregious in the buy-to-play world when cash was already given up front just to get the damn product.
Yeah, and on your point on the debit cards, I think I got my first debit card when I was 14. So, because I had an account, I had a banking account, and I got a debit card to go with it. So, I mean, yeah, it's really not hard to have it. That's like, and it wasn't as automatic then, obviously, but it is automatic now, you know. And
I'll tell you what I couldn't imagine is being like 18, 19 in college again with the checking, my first ever checking account that was not my, like, I was at the bank at the college.
Or your first
like
credit card.
Yeah, and stuff like this existed. I couldn't, like, I made stupid decisions with the money as it was.
I still make stupid
spend money on
decisions
stuff I
with
didn't
money.
need anyway.
I still bought the EverQuest Landmark $100 Founders Pack. I'm 36.
You should have at least got 50 loot boxes with that.
I should have at least. Speaking of these loot boxes, they also turn into PR nightmares for some of these companies. As much bad press as Bungie has received for its whole shaders being in lockboxes, and then shaders now being consumables, one-time use items, as much bad press as something like that garners you, imagine being somebody like Lord of the Rings Online and Standing Stone Games, who, well, what they did is players were reporting on the forums that high-end, best-in-slot gear was coming up in loot boxes on the test server. Best-in-slot gear was dropping in loot boxes on the test server. And so, granted, people kind of flipped out, Troy. But Q, they also took the, wait, what are you doing? Was this intended? Because it's on the test server, so there's still that, wait, could this be
somebody
a
might have flipped
mistake?
a switch they didn't mean to. Yeah.
You know, and if you go back over all the history of Lord of the Rings Online, in 2012, Turbine at the time ran into some issues in some various interviews about giving high-quality gear for low-level characters. And at that time, the CM at the time had said to make it perfectly clear we will not sell endgame gear. Then fast forward a few years later, actually just 3 months ago, when the executive producer said there will never be a design that has loot from loot boxes that is statistically better than what you can gain someplace or somehow in game. Finding that loot in game might be hard, but it will be possible. A lot's changed, right? I mean, it went from Turbine to no longer Turbine, but Standing Stone Games, and so there were some questions about this. And here is Standing Stone Games' reply. Our goal is that you can earn, while playing the game, all statistical bonuses that you can get from loot boxes. In the case of the vendor rings, in particular, they will also have a chance to drop in the upcoming raid. Think about that. Rings in loot boxes, you will be able to get in-game, but can't yet. Upcoming raid. Okay, that's an important thought. That drop can also upgrade, so upgraded rings will be possible to obtain in-game. We realize that having a short period where they are in loot boxes before the raid is available is not ideal, but players will be able to get upgraded rings in-game. If players find other statistical bonuses in loot boxes that cannot be duplicated in-game, they should definitely bring them here, referring to post them in the forums. So if you as the player find something in a loot box, it is now your responsibility to find out statistically if that piece of gear can be found or an equivalent in-game, and if not, notify us. And if not, notify us. Just put it in the post down here below. Like, how many things wrong with one statement about loot boxes can there be, Troy?
Well, I think the part that made me laugh the hardest was that the rings in the loot boxes before the raid even exist. Well, that's not ideal. As if they don't have control of that.
Right.
As if they could have said, oh, well, the raid's not going to come out for, I don't know, it was a couple of weeks or whatever, a couple of months, whatever. They could have just held on to the loot box. Just like, so that's not ideal, but it just is what it is. It appeared out there, and there's not much we can do about it now.
Yeah, I don't get it. Either hold back the loot boxes, or hell, I gotta believe that you have a master list in the database of things that are checked that are possible to show up when a loot box is clicked on. Uncheck that box for a little while. First off, don't do this. This is terrible. I hate the idea of best-in-slot gear being sold in a cash shop, period. Now taking that horrible practice, in my opinion, and putting it in a loot box, just shoot me twice. I hate this, Q.
Yeah, and it's the irritating part of this to me too is just the language they use on this, like trying to make it sound something like, oh, come on, guys, it's really not our fault that it's showing up in the boxes first. I mean, it's not ideal, but what do you expect us to do? Like, you designed the game, guys. Come on. So, I don't know. It's just like I sit and think about all the stuff that appears in it. Actually, just listening to this makes me think that I really don't have it that bad in the secret world. I mean, as far as their loot system goes, yeah, there's stuff in loot boxes from that you got to get from the scenarios and other stuff to be able to do layers, and then there's the stuff in the layers, but you get keys for those every day, and this is just. I don't understand this at all.
This reminds me of a little bit. This reminds me of a little story. Earlier this year, my wife and I...
Story time with Troy. Let's sit back, Q.
We were on vacation down in Florida before hurricanes. It was during the summer, and enjoying the crap out of myself. And I wake up one morning, and I go outside, and like Mike, I have my vice, and I'm smoking my morning cigarette, drinking a little caffeine, and I'm on my phone just scrolling through news. And somehow I wind up on Twitter, and I don't usually just check Twitter just randomly like that. I was like, let's see what's up on Twitter. The very first thing at the top of my Twitter list was a gazillion developer, Marvel Heroes. One of the guys who is pretty well known for giving information to the players about what's coming up, what's happening behind the scenes, stuff like that. That morning, he decided to tweet out something along the lines of, woke up this morning with some great ideas for some loot boxes. Can't wait to get started working on those. And I just sat with my mouth agape going, how tone deaf can you be right now with all the console crap going on with Marvel Heroes and PC feeling like they're being abandoned? And you're one of the few developers that we feel we can turn to be like, hey, man, what's going on? What's up? And that is your tweet of the morning. Woke up this morning, and that's like just a little microcosm of what is on the developers' brains. Dude is waking up with like, oh man, think of all these awesome new loot boxes I can put together, which at the end of the day, especially for Gazillion, those of you who play Marvel Heroes will know, probably these loot boxes ideas didn't even consist of anything new. He just decided, oh, well, these random things that already exist in the game, they kind of have a theme together. Let's throw them in a loot box. Which, by the way, congratulations, Marvel Heroes console players. You now have your Halloween loot box. It's just full of random skins that they had laying around that they hadn't published to console yet. So there you go, Halloween loot box.
That's just cold.
So there we go. There's story time with Troy.
That's just cold.
It didn't get better for Lord of the Rings Online this week, by the way. It did not. So apparently there was a bit of an error in this week's patch. So they were selling gear at a barter vendor, and the price for that gear was set too low when it was patched into the game. Now, Standing Stone Games caught the mistake and said, hey, we're going to fix the problem. But they were also going to strip people of all the items they bought and give them no compensation whatsoever. No compensation. Yeah. So, needless to say, people were pissed. People were pissed. And so they released a statement, and it's just as awesome as the previous statement I read to you, Troy. Get ready for this. For players who already purchased item level 330 incomparable gear, incomparable is a, category of gear rarity there, rare, legendary, that type, incomparable. We have several options available. When the hotfix is released, already purchased level 330 incomparable items will be able to be disenchanted with the flame of, and forgive me, I'm not a Tolkien expert here, and Kalamir? And Kalamir? We'll go with that. To return the full Ash of Gorgoroth cost, plus a number of shadowed essence boxes equal to the number of essence slots in the gear. Already purchased item level 330 incomparable gear will also have its stats adjusted to be approximately equivalent to the level 330 rare gear available through the High Enchanter, and the essence slots will remain. This allows players to utilize the gear if they choose. Following the hotfix, incomparable gear will have its correct vendor costs. So you could disenchant it and do this stuff, or you can use it, but we're going to bump its stats down to make it equivalent with the rare level gear. This seems like
didn't the quote sort of say like relatively equivalent or something like that? It didn't even say like exactly like
approximately was the word they used. Approximately
equivalent.
See, now to me this one seems stupid, right? Obviously, you're not going to do a server rollback or something ridiculous like that because the number of people that bought this is nowhere near the number of people your player base, and so that'd be a far-fetched solution. I understand that, but hey, how about the ones that bought it got over on you and we fixed it? Good on you. You got a freebie, but the next one you ain't getting a freebie on. Would that really have been that hard? Would that really have been that hard?
That's what Steam does with full games. That's what Steam does. Like when they were doing, when they do their sales every so often.
Yeah, there's always some pricing error somewhere.
Yeah, there's a pricing error. It's either too low or it's free or whatever. And whoever manages to grab it before they catch it, they're just like, whatever.
Our bad.
Yeah, I mean, Steam doesn't do everything well.
Right.
That is for a fact, but this is one thing that they're just like, well, okay.
Like, how hard is that one? Would you really have lost that much?
No. If it's not enough to make it worth a rollback, then no. It was not worth enough to not just let them have it.
And the thing is it's worth it just to let these people, just to go ahead and be nice. It's worth it just for, to negate the negative PR.
Yeah, especially a game like Lord of the Rings Online, which is as old as it is, and its player base at this point is established. You're not picking up waves and waves of new Lord of the Rings online players, even when an expansion comes out. You're getting the people that have stuck with you forever. You're pissing off a relatively stagnant player base.
Yeah, all you're doing is risking losing waves of players.
I don't know. So, bad week. Yeah, lots on loot boxes. And look, I realize that we just scratched the surface of everything that may or may not be wrong in somebody's opinion on loot boxes. We've left a lot of room for discussion here. We can certainly expand this conversation if the viewers want us to. Throw your comments below if you'd like to see us go a bit more in-depth on this one. But I think we all got our pieces said where, stop buying the damn things. What the hell? Stop.
It's on us at this point. In all honesty,
hey, like I said, we're all pretty much guilty of it in some way.
Moving on, I like infographics, and Fortnite released a nifty one this week. Apparently, they've gathered over 10 million Battle Royale players in 2 weeks, and they do point out that that's the entire population of Sweden. I don't think they're implying that only Sweden plays the game.
No, but if Fortnite Battle Royale were a country, it would be
Sweden. It would be Sweden. 45 million total number of hours played. Almost 1,500 college degrees that could have been earned in that time. We get infographics all the time, Q. And God knows, how accurate are they? We have no way of verifying the information, right? Let's be honest with you. We publish it, it is what it is. But I did appreciate that they did put these little asterisks and these little fun little footnotes on these. Like 58, little under 59 million traps found. 0 traps found in Return of the Jedi. I particularly liked that one. The stat that I thought was the most fun, a little under 300 million people who've jumped from the battle bus. 2 is the number of time Patrick Swayze jumps out of a plane in Point Break. So just by way of comparison, 300 million and 2. Troy, didn't we just have a 300 million and 2 discrepancy on a previous show not too many weeks ago where we thought, hey, yeah, somebody might mistake 300 million for 2?
It could be close.
What the hell were we talking about? It was a fun infographic, though, Q.
It was, and my actual favorite was the nearly 800 million wall, just basically structurally things, wall, stairs, whatever. But there's 3 billion. I don't know what my brain was just doing.
The commas are there.
873. Like bricks in the Great Wall of China, and I actually like that tidbit. Like I've never in my life thought I need to look up how many bricks are in the Great Wall of China.
My question is, if 10 million people have played this in 2 weeks, and we're assuming this type of number means the number of people who have at least played it once, right? Why does it still take so long to find a match of 100 people? I don't
Maybe
know.
they're all in the game, Mike.
Yeah, they're all. Not
everybody dies in the first few minutes of being in a game. So some of these folks are actually spending some time in these games.
Yeah, hey, good on them. Good on Fortnite. Kind of fun. Now it makes you go like, well, did they really need to make the PvE version?
Really?
Because remember, this started as the PvE version, which you still cannot get into free to play yet. You still have to pay for that. But the Battle Royale, which still at this exact moment makes 0 money, but you can bet this sumbitch is going to be monetized real quick with these types of numbers. And they already said they would. It just hasn't happened yet. On your end of the board, though, Q, Secret World Legends got its first update with actual new content now, not just stuff brought over from TSW. So what's in it? How's that going?
Well, it's a small bit of content as far as you would think. It's not like a whole new expansion type thing or complete update. The update itself is the big selling points is the Orochi Tower, which did exist in the Secret World. That was basically kind of where the story dropped off for them. You go into the Orochi Tower in Tokyo and mess around with them. But they opened, there's these things called layers. They're super high-end areas. Basically, if you wander into them and you were not geared at all, and I still can't do it, and, I'm a level 50, but my gear is still just nowhere near where it needs to be, you just get one shot every time, just boom, But it's a shrine because you're in Tokyo, so it's a Shinto shrine. They've added 3 new bosses. They showed one off in the stream last week. It was Stone Inari Fox that turns into a human when you're fighting him. They've got some foo dogs wandering around in there. And it's just more basically high-end content. As far as story content goes, they're still being really elusive about what, if anything, is going to happen. They will, when they're mentioning voice actors, they won't even say if the voice actor is a male or a female because they're pretty convinced that the fans are going to figure out immediately what's going on and where it's going to happen. So they just say it's a person. Like, that's what we get. Next week is going to be the Halloween event, so which I'm figuring is probably going to be kind of a rehash of Halloween in the Secret World as we know it, kind of deal. Maybe it was that they've already dropped some of the items in those caches I was talking about.
I was going to say maybe there'll be new loot boxes.
Well, the new loot box came out.
They're already there. Those went in before the event, Troy.
It's the Halloween loot box, and they apparently they decided we all really needed spiders.
Yeah, they're gonna we're gonna wait and make sure we get the event and the patch and everything right. But loot boxes, you can have them now. You can have them now.
It may not be ideal, but here it is.
It may approximately be.
I mean, the loot boxes were just dropped with the new patch, basically. So next week is the Halloween event, but this week, there's the new layer is the big bit, and then eventually someday we'll leave Tokyo.
Hopefully.
That's the big question going forward, isn't it? Like now that Legends has gotten to the point where they've run out of the existing content, at what cadence are they going to produce new content, and is it going to keep like this new group of players around to continue forward in that wheel of, okay, this content, let's just make the next content, let's just make the next content. This is the interesting point in the lifespan of Secret World Legends right now.
Yeah, it is. I mean, because up until this point, they've just, they started out and they dropped everything through Transylvania. Basically, they did make a lot of adjustments, but obviously they started making those before we came in, and then they started doing the work on the Tokyo stuff, and they dropped it bit by bit by bit, each of the individual zones. But everything we've had up until now is, that like they didn't have to really go out and get new voice actors and actresses and stuff to redo any of the content or anything, because it was all already there. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how long it takes them to come up with the new zones and stuff. And there's like 3 zones to every region. So
yeah, it makes me sad because they lost me. I was such a Secret World player, but I just could not stomach having to do it again. After I started playing in Secret World Legends okay, I'm just going to blow through this stuff as fast as I can and get caught up. I lost it and was just like, so they've lost people like me, and now I don't want to see them lose that next segment, which is people like you, Q, who were willing to go and do it because they were so hungry for the new content. And now if it has content droughts or subpar content in any way, there's no incentive for you to stick around anymore. You're right, Troy. I think this is a really critical time for Secret World is these next few months. Speaking of this other game here, Troy, have you ever played Deceit? I had not.
No, I have not.
Q?
Nope.
So Deceit by Automaton is they're going to be moving on to another project. They're going to be making an open world survival game. So they've taken their game Deceit, which if you're not familiar with it, it's a multiplayer first-person shooter. You kind of wake up in an asylum. There's some voices and 5 other people. A third of that group has been infected with a virus. So who's going to make it out? It's kind of that type of first-person shooter gameplay. They're making that free-to-play. It's going free-to-play tomorrow, so we'll have a first look on that one. I'll be doing it either tomorrow or Saturday. So by Monday, there will be a first look posted on Deceit. If you buy the game, which you still can at $10, or you've already bought the game, you are going to get some perks in the game there as far as some cosmetics, boosters, things like that. So if you want to shell out a couple of bucks to support the company as they move on to their new endeavor, great. If you held off on purchasing Deceit, well, tomorrow, effective October 13th, you can get it for free. I'm kind of looking forward to checking this one out, Troy, only because of how much I loved games like Friday the 13th and things like that. Oddball multiplayer shooting, first-person, third-person type games, rather than, the typical run-and-gun first-person shooter. So I have no idea what to expect. I've never played it before, but I'm looking forward to checking it out. Is it something either of you piqued your interest enough to download it, or is this kind of whatever for you guys?
It's pretty whatever for me. Now, if like some point we're sitting here one evening and me and my boys are a little bored, it's something that we would probably at least check out at some point.
Q?
I like the idea of it and like the setting and everything, but being honestly just not good with shooters and the likelihood of it probably making me sick.
Ah. On the flip side of that, I did post a first look this week for Grimoire Manastorm, the best free-to-play game available on Steam today. That's all I'm going to tell you. It is the best free-to... No, it's not. It really isn't. This is one of those ones where I did the first look sheerly for my own personal enjoyment of making a first look video on this one. So it's first person, can be third if you want it to, but stick with first. Third person view is wonky. And in fact, I didn't notice that. I thought based on the hands that were in the first person view mode when I originally booted up the game, that my character was a female. And then when I clicked third person just through the tutorial and whatnot, it zapped out and it was a male. I was like, well, I'll be damned.
But just model hands.
Yeah, they were like very delicate looking. They almost looked like they had nails. I mean, not longer nails. Not like the graphics are good enough that you could tell this, by the way. Okay. We're talking like EQ1 generation graphics, particularly when you look at the skeletons. But I thought it was a blast. You guys checked out the first look. I know the game isn't all that great, and I couldn't do the multiplayer. Troy, did you catch where I referenced you in the first look there?
No, not in this one. I haven't had a chance to watch this one yet.
I was like, Troy can't even give me shit because it's predominantly a multiplayer game. It's supposed to be a capture-the-point multiplayer battler with magic spells and stuff. But I was like, Troy can't even give me shit here because here's the server list. And it showed 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And I was like, so unless Troy wants to get on right now, he can't give me any shit for not being able to. But the best part of it, and go watch the first look, I thought it was a blast. I had a lot of fun. I accidentally discovered that the debug menu is still in the game. Now, I don't know if they left it in there intentionally just so people could screw around with it, if they forgot to take it out. I don't know. But the debug menu, I went to hit escape on a thing and bumped the tilde key, and a debug popped up, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Is that All right, let's try some things. And so I typed God, right? That's the first thing you look for, right? So I typed God. It had it there. Click. Bang. I see it in the God mode on. All right. So I ran around the PvE portion of the game in God mode. Couldn't be beaten. Then I figured out, I started checking other commands. I was able to add bots. At one point, I was playing and I dropped 1,000 bots, and it put them all right by the church door and then crashed the game. Then I started adding bots, using them as meat shields so the monsters couldn't get to the objective that I was trying to protect in the PvE mode. It was a blast. It shouldn't have been. It was a blast for all the wrong reasons, but I encourage you to check out the first look video, and if you want to throw them a few bucks, you can still buy the additional classes. I don't know. The PvE mode, I could see, by the way, you could not put God mode on in PvP. It was at least disabled there. That makes me think that maybe they left the menu in on purpose because it was disabled for PvP. And it really doesn't matter if you turn it on in PvE. There's 0 rewards for PvE, so sure. What do they care if you run around in God mode? But check it out. Check out the first look and just have some fun. Let's wrap this up by going to the weekly bombs. All right, what do we got here? First, I'm going to go first. I'm going to give a dub bomb to Grimstone Manastorm. I will never play it again. Ever. But I'll be damned if I didn't have a blast with a smile on my face for 2 hours or so while doing the first look and breaking the game and finding out exactly where I could teleport to, because the maps aren't all that great, and they give you a teleport spell that goes, here, get this, Troy. The distance on the teleport spell, Q, take a guess.
Across the map?
No, 1,000 units. What the fuck a unit is? No clue. No clue. Couldn't tell you. It actually says that in the tooltip, that the teleport goes 1,000 units. All right. Q, go ahead. You're up.
I'm going to give a bomb to Secret World Legends Halloween event coming. I've been waiting for this since they relaunched the thing. But I'm also going to give an A-bomb to Funcom for breaking the patron benefits every single time they push a new update. Every time. And it takes them a day or two to fix it, which means, nobody's getting the patron stuff for at least a day or two.
Of all the things you think would be safe in a patch.
Right?
It's worse if you're playing via Steam.
Right. But go ahead and click lock on that, Funcom. Just put a lock on that one. Go ahead, Troy.
We picked on a lot of games today, but I'm going to get super specific for my A-bomb, and it's not free-to-play related, so I'm sorry. But to the 12 million of you who bought the last EA Battlefront game, the rushed shell incomplete game, and are still going to buy the second one too, even with Oz pay-to-win mechanics, you get a big A-bomb from me. These developers are never going to change because we never try to teach them lessons. They're probably going to sell more than 12 million this time because the game itself sounds like it's actually there this time and not rushed and incomplete. But we never again. It's on us.
You're
it's
so
on us.
bitter. You're so
Oh,
bitter.
yeah.
He is.
Yeah, this week filling in for Jason Winter will be Troy.
All right, and I apologize to the viewer. You don't know who you are, but I just deleted your bomb because it was really long, and we're going long today. So my apologies to you. It has nothing to do with you, and you don't know who you are anyway. So Nasagra says, dub bomb to the dev saying, quote, "We have no convincing plans for the future of the game" on last week's show, Troy. That was priceless.
That was great.
Mike's reaction was priceless. Thank you, Nasagra. I believe it was priceless too. Go ahead, Q.
What game was that?
Give me 2 seconds and I'll pull up the notes. I don't remember off the top of my... Oh, wait. What was it? The Exiles, right? Wasn't it the Exiles?
I think so.
Okay. Good job, devs. All right, Azure98, that whole comment about free-to-play MMOs coming to Switch. It was announced not that long ago that Japan, specifically PSO2, will get a Switch version. So... there you go.
Troy, what did I tell you as soon as we hit stop last week?
You should have brought up Phantasy Star Online 2.
Yeah, I meant to bring it up as you were talking about the MMOs on Switch, as the viewer was, you were reading the viewer thing, and I was like, oh, I got to mention that I heard that one is coming, and Jason will get to kick me again about Phantasy Star Online 2 because it's limited to Japan once again. So yeah, and the game was The Exiled. I was right. I said Exiles, but it's The Exiled that has no convincing plans for the future of the game. Go ahead, Troy.
Hadrex Sky Shadow, dub bomb and A-bomb to Divinity Original Sin 2. It has consumed my life, 150 plus hours. Finished the game 10 times and started the 11th time. Look, I have closed beta for Dauntless, not even 1 minute played. I have Path of Fire for Guild Wars. I haven't even started. I have a Clan and Dojo and Warframe, 50 plus players, completely abandoned. I have Daily Quests and Heroes of the Storm. I didn't even update the game. All games I play on a day-to-day basis. God damn it, I regret nothing.
Sky, awesome weekly bomb there. Jason Mark Laban says, I'd like to give Destiny 2 an A-bomb. The matchmaking queues are ridiculous. I said my piece last week, Jason. Nice to see you agree. Honestly, I stopped playing after a while, and I'm no longer interested even in future DLC content. I'll give a dub bomb to this show. Look forward to it weekly or whenever it comes out. Great perspectives, asking the right questions, and entertaining the entire time. Keep doing what you guys do. Length of show is not an issue for me. I soak up all there is to get. Well, thank you. We are humbled by your compliment.
You're gonna love this week's show, then.
Go ahead, Q.
Wilfredo Rivera, the bomb to Bless Online's rebuild project. I've been following its progress for a while now, and I can say that I am genuinely interested in playing Bless. I hope that at the very least they have a similar combat system to Guild Wars 2 after the hot expansion. With that being said, I will hold my breath waiting to... Is there supposed to be a nod in there?
I think so. I think they meant to have... I won't hold my breath waiting to play this game.
Yeah, okay. Maybe not. Maybe they will hold their breath. I don't know.
Oh, no, he does because, yeah, Wilfredo's, yeah. I think he says he means to hold his breath because in the next sentence he's talking about his body.
Oh, yeah. Would someone be so kind as to keep my corpse to when the game launches over there? Thanks. I don't know that you want to die for this game. Like,
just let the game die. Like this is like hashtag let bless die. That's my thing on this show. Let bless.
Oh God.
You're so grumpy about everything.
Not happening.
Let it be excited.
And even if it did happen, when it gets here, it's just going to be a flop like all the rest of them.
Let
it be excited.
At Noob Winter. Go ahead, Troy.
Fabricio and Zarina on this Battle Royale drama. Seems everyone failed to realize that Bluehole got mad not about them making a Battle Royale, but using exactly the same gameplay flow, flying thing, hovering the area, players choosing to drop, etc., etc. Other Battle Royales just make people appear randomly or whatever. Not defending Bluehole, they still dropped the ball on that one.
And while you are absolutely right, that is specifically what Bluehole said they were not commenting on. They were concerned more about the engine. But you're right, they did also mention similarities. So, question of the week last week. Should Final Fantasy XIV go free to play? And if you're not a 14 player, would that get you in the game? If you are a 14 player, should it go free? Why or why not? And as you can imagine, the comments went ape shit. Elusive X Treasure says, for the question of the week, it's complicated. I can see both sides to this. I play all 3 payment models as long as they're well done. I generally don't have a problem with any of them. They all have pros and cons. With my recent move, my budget has become a bit tighter, so I cut out sub-games, the price of a better neighborhood. With free-to-play, I have the option to pay sometimes if I want something or have extra money without the obligation of a monthly fee. The same can be said for buy-to-play. Overall, I think it would bring in more players and be a generally positive change. However, I know the problems other free-to-play games face with free-to-play tourists that hop on just to troll or spam or other sorts of annoying activities. That being said, Rift has one of the better communities in my opinion despite this. Would get me to jump back in? Maybe. There was always something about the game just never hooked me in spite of the many features about it that I liked. Perhaps it was the travesty they called Summoner that was in no way, shape, or form a Final Fantasy Summoner, which is one of my favorite Final Fantasy classes. Or maybe I just wanted Final Fantasy 11-2, which is obviously not what that game is. I think it largely depends on how it's implemented, if it ever happens. And I would agree with you generally, Elusive, and I do on a lot of things agree with you and your hubby. And I would point out, though, that Rift's community now, I would agree with you, but for about a year right after the free-to-play change, it was not a good community. It had its fair share of the annoying tourists that showed up in games. So I agree with you, but I also realize that you're probably right that in the long term that dies down after a while.
It had its fair share of disgruntled veterans as well.
Yeah, I was one of those. Yeah. Go ahead, Q.
Proximity Huts HD. I don't
Proximity.
know. Destiny 2 sucks in general. No in-game, super casual. The hardest modes aren't hard at all. On a side note, I've been subbed to Final Fantasy XIV for 2 years, and I would hate to go free to play. It would ruin the game even with even more casuals, and then no one would be able to pass Zervanix. LOL.
Zervanix Stream. Go ahead, Troy.
The Ethical Pixel, please no, all caps, free to play Final Fantasy XIV. Keep it the way it is. Thank you.
I love that name, the Ethical Pixel. I don't know why. Kendall Berryman, it's been proven that free-to-play works and works well. I don't feel a need to elaborate on this. I don't feel a need to argue with you on it. You are right. I also don't feel that Final Fantasy XIV should go free-to-play, but I'd try it if the cash shop isn't pay to win. Mike, your fear is real. Having new players flood into a game that already has a decent community has proven a problem in multiple MMOs. I just choose to press that oh-so-wonderful ignore button. New players can't destroy relationships you've already built. For every one good person in an MMO, there's 100 special people there fighting for said good person's attention. Check the trade chat in World of Warcraft. Press the ignore button. You are absolutely right, Kendall. Great point. Go ahead, Q.
Teddy Howie Jaya.
You're getting all the good names today.
I know. Free to play Final Fantasy XIV. Yes, please.
Just to put another thing out here, somebody in the comments, I guess, reading the title, maybe didn't watch the show or know what it was about, just asked for the download link.
There's
or maybe they were just being funny. If they were just being funny, they definitely succeeded. I laughed. Go ahead, Troy.
George Trink, Final Fantasy XIV should not be free to play. As much as I enjoy not spending money, I think that a free to play model would ruin the game. I never played it myself, but I do like that there are still good MMORPGs out there, and that Final Fantasy XIV is a good example of one, from what I hear. I'm hoping that developers see the success of 14 and they start releasing more quality MMORPGs. We need quality. But if Final Fantasy XIV would change its model to anything, I agree with Jason that it should go buy to play. I enjoy ESO. I bought Guild Wars 2 before it was free to play, and would probably give XIV a shot as well.
We are just like when the three of us were talking about it last week. Our comments are running the entire gamut.
All over the place, yep.
Yami Kami says, when Final Fantasy XIV had only 10 days of a free trial, I never tried it because it was too short of a trial to experience an MMO game. Then they upgraded it, and I gave it a shot. On the first day of me playing, I was sent around doing fetch quests and was thinking to myself, I want combat and action. On the second day, I finally got some kill quests, but fell asleep during the global cooldowns. On the third day, I had lost all motivation to go back into it and uninstall. So definitely along your lines of thought, Mr. Noob Fridge.
Oh, yes. Them dim global cooldowns, though.
Go ahead, Q.
KO, if they had 700K subs, they shouldn't go free to play. That's a solid number. If they don't see an increase in that number every 3 to 4 months, they should consider going free, or maybe separate free to play servers with Cash Shop to try it out.
That I would advise highly against. I'm not against a game doing, by the way, a free-to-play server and a subscription-based server. In fact, I kind of generally like that idea rather than... I know you lose out on some of the benefits, right, where paid players are benefiting from free players being there because the population is increased. I understand that. But in concept, I like the idea of separate servers. The implementation of that I've never seen done well because nobody does it at launch, and that's when you have to do it, in my opinion. You can't do that after the fact. Just ask Alids Online. Go ahead, Troy.
Sinweaver, absolutely not. Do not go free to play. It is absolutely fine as it is, and it will not miss those potential players who are potentially dickwads, pay to win mobs, and those with short attention span.
Sinweaver, in your future comments, you don't have to censor yourself. I mean, you can be honest and open here with, you know, whatever you need to say. Go ahead. It's all right. The Realizer Net... Obviously, I'm being facetious. The Realizer Network says Final Fantasy XIV going free-to-play would probably decrease the overall concurrent player base, in my opinion. I can't imagine what they would end up trying to charge people for, but I assume most of it would involve convenience, which to me translates to this shit will frustrate you if you don't pay. You're probably right. I'm not going to argue
not
with
wrong.
that one. Yeah, you're definitely not wrong. Go ahead, Q.
Kinetic Fetus. See, that's my favorite name. Why not just make it freemium? If it did go with this model or even free to play, I would probably try it out, but I don't think I would play it for any significant amount of time. Also, I'm with you on Destiny 2 Guided BS. I've only tried it twice, and although I did get a group both times, we still failed. The first group was a shit show. The guys saw that we weren't going to make it in time and just left me there. Failure aside, the second group was way better. They were willing to give the old college try a few times before they had to leave.
And nothing's changed on that front yet. I'll keep you posted, because it just frustrates me that free-to-play games that are copy-pastes of 900 other things manage to do this right, and Bungie still hasn't figured it out. Go ahead, Troy.
Sogapex. I've never played Final Fantasy XIV, mainly because I can't stand subs. I'd sure like a free-to-play version. Something limited like EVE Online's free-to-play mode would be alright. Basically, a never-ending trial.
Well, Soka, you can go and do that one right now up to level 35, and Yoshi P has already hinted it. When the next expansion comes out, that'll probably be bumped to 50. So that's a pretty damn good free trial to... If you can't figure out in the first 50 levels whether you want to stick with a game or not, I don't know what's going on with you. Question of the week this week. All right, I'm just going to do it, Troy. I'm just going to turn it over to the internet here.
Next week's show, you should do nothing but read comments.
Right. What's your view on loot boxes? I don't care if we're talking about specific buy-to-play games, specific free-to-play games, specific examples, whatever you need to say, get it out, my brothers and sisters. What's your view on loot boxes? Put it in the comments below and Rip the YouTube comment server. Bye. Just throw it all out there. Don't forget, though, while you're there, your weekly bombs. Dub bomb for something good, A bomb for something bad. Until next week, Troy, where can everybody find you?
Twitch.tv/noobfridge. Thanks for coming by.
Q.
Twitter at Quinlan, that little thing right there.
I'm Mike Byrne, aka Magic Man. You can follow me personally right there at MagicMan1 on the Twitter. But more importantly, while you're there, follow at MMOBomb so that we can tweet you all the contests, all the giveaways, all the free loot boxes that we give out without requiring a donation or money from you. Just continue to visit and continue to sub to YouTube. That's all we ask. See you next week. Stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.